Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to welcome you to an episode of Interviews with Hyperpolyglots at HYPIA. You are not just a member, you're also Director of Outreach and Communication, so you have a stronger role to play, and I'm grateful for that role. Along with Matthias, you help to support the work that I've tried to do for HYPIA, and we have come a long way, have we not?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's an ongoing project, and it's definitely difficult to recruit new members. But I think it's an exciting project, a project that I am very happy to be a part of, and I really appreciate that you trusted me to be a part of it and to help you growing this amazing community. And yeah, I'm sure there's a lot to do, and that we will for sure achieve great things.
Yes, agreed. And the reason that I appreciate the time you put in is also because you have a full-time schedule. You're a medical professional, you were a doctor. Tell us a little bit about that aspect of your life.
I work as a neuroradiologist in the section of diagnostic and interventional neuroradiology at the University Hospital of Lausanne in Switzerland. So especially in Switzerland, I do have a very, very busy schedule with normal days working like up to 10 hours easily, just like a normal day. And then on top of it, there's still the shifts, the night shifts, the doctoral thesis, the research projects, and then I just arrived to Lausanne, to Switzerland. Obviously, I already knew some French, but still, I'm always aiming to make it perfect. So this is also an ongoing project, and I'm constantly also working on my French. So yeah, definitely there's a lot to do, but again, this is a passion of mine, like languages and this international community. This is something that I can simply do it as a hobby. So whenever I work too much and I come back home, it just feels like a hobby to me to be part of this project.
Absolutely. And this is an important thing for our audience to realize, is that the hyperpolyglots are not singularly devoted to the study of languages. They actually have fulfilling lives and busy lives outside of this. For you, it includes medicine. For you, it includes integrating into a new society. You were previously in other countries. You are not Swiss. You were originally from Portugal, but you were previously in Luxembourg. And so tell us a little bit about the journey that you've had growing up in different places and learning languages. How did this all come about?
Yeah, sure. So I was born in Lisbon, the capital of Portugal, and up till the age of 18, I just had like a very normal path, let's say. So I was just attending a very normal public school in Portugal. We learned foreign languages as everyone else, English, and then as a second option, you can choose between French and Spanish, mainly. In my case, it was French. But back then, honestly, I didn't really care about languages, because maybe I was not. Maybe because I was just not feeling the motivation, I didn't really have a motivation for it. So actually up until the age of 18, I was just like a very normal guy from Portugal who had like some basic knowledge I had some knowledge of English, some basic knowledge of French language. I never attended like an international private school or whatever. I didn't even travel that much abroad as a kid or as an adolescent. I did have a family background that stimulated me to learn languages. There's definitely a background in my family of people who mastered different languages, and also who had or who have careers abroad. yeah, and both my parents, they did have a working knowledge of some languages. No? But yeah, it's really, everything began at the age of 18. Then I moved to Spain and then to Barcelona. And there's this bilingual situation and this also, I would say, rather delicate political situation. And yeah, so I found myself in a situation where I would go to university and classes were taught in Catalan. And then I would go to the streets and people would be speaking in Spanish. So so yeah, this was something very special to experience. But I guess that what happened was that I did learn Catalan very, very fast. I got the C1 level and official diploma of Catalan within 1 year upon arrival. And this allowed me to integrate very, very easily. No? And I did notice, I think I realized the importance of languages, you know, how it can break barriers, you know. I was always treated in Catalonia as a brother, as a son, you know, as one of the family, let's say, no? I was, this is a very, very, and I think that after my different experiences, I realized that this is a privilege, you know, that you are an immigrant, that you are a foreigner, and that you get to be fully integrated, you know, and even treated with some kind of privilege, you know, just because you mastered the language, you know. So yeah, I think this was the point when everything started in Barcelona, and then Barcelona, it's obviously like a very international town with full of people coming mainly from all parts of Europe, you know, lots of Italians, of French people, but also Germans from Scandinavia, Eastern Europe, South America, you know, pretty much all over the world. And this is something that I enjoy, you know, I simply enjoy meeting people from other cultures, trying to understand them. I just like it. I just enjoy it. And then I guess another reason, of course, it's also my professional career. I do think I am somewhat ambitious, and yeah, I always strived to achieve a good position abroad at a very renowned university hospital. And of course, languages are also a mean to achieve it. You know? In Europe, we have this situation, this privilege, let's say, that you can very easily recognize your diplomas abroad. So yeah, so me, for example, I have my diploma as a doctor and as a radiologist recognized in 6 countries in Europe. You know, so. I can just move and switch like in a space of 2 weeks, you know. Today I'm working in Switzerland. If tomorrow I want to be working in Germany or in Spain or Portugal or in the UK or in Ireland, it just takes like a couple of clicks, 2 weeks, I'm there, you know. So I think this is yeah, I think this is a privilege, and it is an intelligent thing to do, because yeah, I mean, the world is always changing, geopolitics are complicated, and in a timeline of just like a few years, the situation in one specific country can take another direction. No? So yeah, yes. I mean, yeah, so different reasons, yeah.
And you have been involved in polyglot conferences and gatherings as well. You've actually represented HYPIA in one, I know for sure. So tell us about that sort of representation. What did you do? What did you talk about? What was it like?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this polyglot gathering, it's a very interesting event. Yeah, you meet like polyglots or just people who have a passion for languages, like from all over the world. What I really liked about it is that it is very, very inclusive. You know, it really gives you a sense of, you know, belonging to a family. You know, it's a space where everyone is accepted. You know, regardless of their backgrounds in terms of country, of religion, of whatever. You know.
So like HYPIA.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's what I like about this community, right? And I like to think about HYPIA as a place where people have this mindset and this tolerance, and where we strive maybe to oppose the innate human nature of fighting against other civilizations or cultures, you know.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, so I think that's what is inspiring about this project. You know? But yeah, coming back to the polyglot gathering. Yeah, so I went in 2019 to Bratislava, and I attended the polyglot gathering, and I delivered a speech about the cognitive advantages of polyglots in the labor market. I think it was an interesting topic. There were certainly many people asking questions, basically related to how could they get a better salary, but
the bottom line, yes.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, and I did presented or the HYPIA to the audience. Yeah, so it was the first time I did it. There were a lot of people interested, but again, it is difficult to find people who do master or are proficient at 5-6 languages. No? I think up to four, you can find them quite easily, but when it comes to 5 and 6, that's really the, you know, that's it really makes the difference.
That's right.
And but yeah, I mean, everyone is welcome, and we are very willing and we to accept and to have new members among us. And yeah, unfortunately, this year it was cancelled, as every other Congress all over the world. So unfortunately, this year I didn't have the opportunity to attend this polyglot gathering and to deliver a speech and to make people more familiar with our association. But okay, I will do it next year for sure. No?
Yes.
And but this is really an event that I recommend everyone who has a passion for languages to attend at least once in their life. You have people from all kind of backgrounds. You have like young kids. You have like guys who are already retired. You have business owners. You have translators. You have people who just like to travel all over the world on a permanent basis. You have former diplomats. You have former politicians. Really, you can find everything there. And the good thing is that everyone is accepted and everyone is willing to talk to everyone. It's a great atmosphere.
I think it's wonderful. But there is that limitation in polyglot gathering, which you correctly identified, that they will hit 3 or 4, which is a remarkable human achievement. But pushing for 6, which is sort of the threshold at HYPIA, that is really quite difficult. You see a distribution like this, everybody obviously speaks 1 if they're a functional person. 2 is quite common in the world due to bilingualism, or usually an arcolect and a basilect. 3, trilingualism usually happens through function outside of your own community. So large countries have that a lot. 4 is already something that you have pushed for, literacy of some sort, advanced degrees or something. 5 must be a passion, and 6 too. And it's HYPIA at 6 or 7. So you do see this cutoff. And then the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, we're really cutting for the crumbs, a few people. And so I do accept that limitation, but that's what makes HYPIA a little bit different, because people are very, very proud of the 4th language they learn, but there's a community for people who can share the 8th language they learn. And so that has to be different.
Exactly. But yeah, I totally agree. It's totally that distribution curve, just as you mentioned. It's totally like that. Yeah.
And as a doctor right now, in our chat, I had asked you if you deal directly with coronavirus patients, and you said no. But what has been your overall experience with the coronavirus? Because now we are 4 months into lockdowns of many countries. How has it been?
I mean, for me and here in Switzerland, I would say that it was, we had a very mild experience, you know. But again, you know, I worked in different countries. I have friends in many countries, mainly in Europe, you know, and a lot of doctors. So, and this is something that I always like to do. And this is something that I really love about languages. It enables you to analyze local events from a global standpoint, you know. So I have this passion. I always like to compare, you know, events, what is happening in different countries, you know, in Switzerland, in Germany, in the UK, in Spain, in Portugal, because it's different. It's really different. Even though in Europe, you know, countries are just like basically next, you know, to the other ones. No? So here in Switzerland, it was definitely a very, very, very mild experience, I would say. Of course, Switzerland has the advantage of being a very wealthy country, and that obviously allows hospitals in Switzerland to have all sorts of equipment. You know, so there was never a lack of material, there was never a lack of masks, there was never a lack of beds in the intensive care unit. You know, so and I guess that this is something that also people feel here. You know, whatever is happening abroad, just across the border, whether it is in Italy, in France, in Austria, or in Germany, of course we will experience this crisis again, but we do dispose in Switzerland of more means to fight it. So it will always not be that bad, you know. And I think this is something that also residents in Swiss are aware of, you know. So I would say that here, you know, that there was not really, you know, a moment of panic, you know. On the other way, I contrast this experience with Spain, you know, so especially like my fellow colleagues who are working in Spain at Barcelona or Madrid, and I think people they were really pushed to their limits. There were shortages of equipment, of very necessary equipment. There were shortages of masks. There were shortages of beds in the hospital. You know, there you would, it was a common situation that you would have like people just lying on the corridor of the hospital. You know. Yeah. You know, so medical professionals, they are not really rewarded for it. They don't get enough time to rest. So yeah, it's really a very different situation among the different countries in Europe. No? In Germany, it was also rather calm. Portugal also escaped quite surprisingly quite well. Yeah, from this situation. In the UK, it has also been tough. Yeah. In Italy, yeah, I have many friends from Italy working here in Switzerland. Is also just next, no? And people were panicking. No, right. You can say that people were panicking. That's the word.
Panic. I understand. The disruptions, like you said, you didn't get to go to Polyglot conference gathering this year. I also had one, and it's interesting because I was supposed to go in July, so that exactly 30 days from now, I was supposed to be in Lisbon for my first visit to Portugal. It's the International Political Science Association. I was there to present a paper, which I'd written, now it's been 2 years. And the idea was, how do administrations, how do governments, like bureaucracies, including the medical, like the Ministry of Health equivalent, resist the post-truth era? And so the example I gave in it was of the Trump administration trying to revoke healthcare, the Obamacare, right? The American Health Care Act. He wanted to bring in a different one. And I said, well, look how a group of economists in government can show that if you do that, 20 million Americans would lose healthcare. And so you have economists not getting involved in the politics, but their ideas can influence and mobilize the people to resist post-truth politicians. Now, the thing is, that seems actually very outdated. And half of 2020 is gone, because now you have even better examples of administrations and bureaucracies trying to tell post-truth politicians in countries that this is a very big deal. And the medical professionals are struggling to get their points across. They look at the science and they speak from the science and from the empirical data that they gather, and they try to convince politicians, but politicians play a different game. The game being to stay in office, and part of being in office is to get the people to still like you despite going through hell of coronavirus. And so there are much better case studies for what I was trying to argue as a theoretical point. One is Bolsonaro and what he has done, right? That would be a great example. Similar to the United States, you see coronavirus is through the roof. It's terrible. And now we're anticipating a second wave. So I was supposed to go to Lisbon to talk about an idea, but I think that we have much better ways of talking about the same idea today. And so it's very tragic. One, that I got to miss going to Lisbon, but I anticipate going in 2021. And the second is because there are much better things to talk about now, and much worse in terms of human experience, but much better as case studies to talk about. So it's quite tragic to be talking about these things.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good point. Yeah, as just you say, like, politicians are playing a different game, you know. So they are maybe not necessarily interested about the scientific and the strive of the medical community and scientists and economists to achieve the truth and the consequences that will happen. And they are taking a different approach at it. And as you say, you know, they even if they can use the situation to stay in power, I guess that's a good thing for them, right?
Yes.
So.
There's a diversity of perspectives here that we have to talk about, and the diversity of perspectives actually makes me think about diversity of perspectives in HYPIA as well. What I like to ask members who come on this interview series that we started to get through the lockdowns and have a good time and just talk about ourselves is the perspectives they have on HYPIA. I have a certain vision for HYPIA, everybody else does. Tell us about what your vision is for HYPIA, what it can do, and what you would like to do for it.
Okay. Yeah, I think first of all, I think that that HYPIA should remain a non-political organization, you know, so and open to everyone regardless of their background, whether it is in terms of country, of religion, of sexual orientation, whatever. So I think this should be a community open to everyone, and that is inclusive, right? So I think that's the first pillar, you know, that's the basis. And then I think that, yeah, as I said before, I like to think of HYPIA as a space, as a community where people can use their polyglotism and their skills and their intercultural sensibility, cross-cultural sensitivity to break barriers and to, maybe it is a bit utopic, right? But I mean, the world is the way it is, and yeah, and I think we are quite used to the clashes of civilizations, you know, to
Yes.
wars, to conflicts, to everything, and obviously that's not that brings misery, that brings starvation, that brings deaths, that brings discrimination, that brings psychological torture, that brings every kind of bad consequences, right?
Yes.
So I like to think about HYPIA as a community of people who possess who can somewhat fight against these, I would say, innate human instincts, you know.
Yes.
And I think that requires a bit of yeah, intellectual analysis, you know, some mastering of languages. You know, you need to have gone through this experience of meeting people from other cultures, you know, realizing that, you know, they are just normal human beings, you know, just as you know, we are all quite the same, you know, regardless of which continent or country or, you know, you are coming from. Yeah, and yeah, I think you know that that most of times, you know, whether civilization or a country, you know, becomes wealthier or not, it depends of a lot of geopolitical factors, you know, and things that are not really in control of
Yes.
their citizens. So you know, of course there are differences, but I think it is interesting to be aware that even the differences among human beings inhabiting this planet, they are probably most the results of being subject to different geopolitical conditions, different weather, different environments, you know. So I think that at the very bottom we are all quite the same, and that it is just not intelligent thing to do, that you know, that this race or these people or these inhabitants of this country, they are better than the other ones, you know, just because of their genetics or whatever, you know. So yeah, so to sum it up, I really like to think of HYPIA as a community of people who possess the skills to kind of make this world a place of better communication and understanding, and to really try to bring a new perspective and to avoid some conflicts between cultures.
Agreed. And I think that this is the most important pillar, the tolerance, the idea that we can be inclusive. We are mathematically not inclusive because we set such a high barrier, but if you can surmount that barrier, you can prove that you are functional in 6 or 7 languages. After that, there are no inhibitions and limitations to what you can do and how you can feel a part of the organization. So we'll always be a small group, but it'll be a group that will be a good microcosm of what is good in the world. So
Yeah,
there are
yeah.
about 120-ish people almost now at the HYPIA. But if these were the last 120 people on Earth, I would be very happy. It's a good survival
Okay.
sample of humanity. It's got a reasonable balance. For example, guys and girls, I mean, they're slightly tilted towards guys, about 70-30, but we can bring it over time by encouraging women to explore their polyglot instincts. It is quite racially diverse, the entire melanin spectrum. It covers all the continents. And so if this is the last sample of humans on Earth, I think it would be one of the best samples of humans on Earth. And with the way that things are going right now, there are apocalyptic elements in the discourse. We don't want that to happen, but we should be optimistic that we can create our own island where you have to work to arrive. So it's a merit-based idea. If you can show that you have explored so much of human language and diversity, then you're welcome. And that's the wonderful part of HYPIA. And on that note,
Exactly.
I think we should conclude what has been a delightful conversation. Your contribution, Eduardo, to the organization is very important. Outreach and communications is inherently difficult for HYPIA. We work on zero budget, and it's entirely voluntary. And you're trying to reach out to people, ultimately realizing that either they have a monetary element, so there is a big capitalism element to hyperpolyglots, which disgusts me. And then there's the other part of it where you say, oh, it's 4, oh, 5, you're so close, oh, I'm sorry. And then you feel that just a little bit more effort and you can join. Putting this aside, your work is essential to the organization. So I thank you, Eduardo.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And yeah, if you allow me just to deliver a last message. Yeah, I would like to highlight that point. You know, it's yeah, I find it a pity, you know, that sometimes I am approaching someone who actually masters like 6, 7, 8, even more languages, you know, but yeah, then they are they say, okay, yeah, great, that's a great project, but yeah, I mean, what's the compensation, you know? You know, so this is something that this is something that I really like to highlight. You know, I'm not being paid for it. You are not being paid for it. No one is being paid for it. You know, we don't strive to be paid for it. You know, or to get any monetary compensation. You know, it's not the goal of it. It's not the main idea. And if of course, we never met each other, but I guess you are what makes you tick, which is the same that probably makes me tick, is the idea of impacting, right? Of impacting the world, you know?
Agreed.
Okay, maybe not impacting the world, but I don't, at least somehow, you know, at least I don't know, somehow find a way to you know, to make an impact, you know?
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, this is also a part of the ideology of HYPIA. Okay, if you are someone who shares our principles and if you are someone who strives in the future, you know, to be part of this community and eventually also to help it growing, and if you strive to one day, you know, that you and that we as a community will be able to make an impact, then you are the right person, you know, you have the right profile. But I mean, if you speak 10 languages or even 20, but if you want a monetary compensation, then you better ask the sponsors, you know, some sponsor, you know, that's not us, you know, it's not our goal, you know. So yeah, it's sometimes it's a bit frustrating, yeah, because yeah, it's difficult to find these people who speak like who master 6 languages at least, and then you find one, and usually they are you know, they languages are represent their source of income because they are translators or language teachers or whatever. And of course, the first thing they ask you is, okay, great, HYPIA, I would love to join, but okay, how much are you going to pay me? And that's just not the goal, you know. That's just not part of our association. So yeah. Anyway, I would just like to share the message. I would just like to yeah, to have this. Yeah, I'm happy that we had this talk and that we shared our points of view, and maybe this will also make it easier, you know, for people to realize what are we trying to do, what drives us, you know, and
Yes.
And what's our goal, you know, and yeah, I mean, if you identify with us, then you are more than welcome to join. And if you don't, and if you are looking for compensation, monetary compensation, then we are not the right address, no?
Yes, that's a very good way to put it. Thank you for emphasizing that. I have a very also emotional reaction to that there is even capitalism in linguistic diversity. It is disgusting. And the way that you have put it is much more diplomatic, so thank you for doing that. And on that happy note, I hope to follow up with you, maybe another chat in the future like this, because given how closely we do work and how far up in HYPIA we have a responsibility to share this message more often.
Yeah, sure. And yeah, the same here. And I'm sure we will meet in the future, whether it is at the Congress or at the Polyglot gathering or whatever, but I'm sure this day will arrive. And and it's something that makes me happy because, as I said, I love this, something that I really enjoy, you know, like to meet people from all over the world. And yeah, and actually I never had the opportunity to meet someone from Pakistan, you know, like here in Switzerland. So I hope this day will take place soon. No? It will happen soon.
As do I. Thank you, Eduardo.
Okay.